about onboarding right now. I think it's a really interesting area where there's a huge amount of innovation going on and a huge amount of people doing different things and trying out new things, and lots of organizations are really just starting on their journey into onboarding. So it's exciting, but also I think lots of people are a bit confused and not quite sure where to start. I think some of those questions that were put up was basically people saying, we know this is important, we know we need to do something, but where do we start? So what I thought might be useful is to share with you some of the frameworks and models that we use when we're looking at it, which might help you sort of get your head around some of the questions you need to be asking, and then some of the things you need to be thinking of to get started on this journey. And it basically, so the things I'm going to cover is, one is the balance of power. So lots of people are interested in candidate experience and obviously feel that it's a very important part of what they're doing. One way of looking at that is how the balance of power shifts between the candidate and the organisation as they work through the process with you. Second point is our three core principles, which is respect for the candidate, building relationships with them, and then responding to their needs. And what I'll do is I'll talk about how that applies into the onboarding space. Then look at it from the point of view of your organisation. What is it that your organisation needs to get out of onboarding, and a little model to talk about that. Who owns onboarding? So this is going to be one of the questions later on. And whenever I ask it, I get 10 different opinions, and everyone's really passionate about it, and they're absolutely certain they're right. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is, but I'll give you a little model that will maybe help you to think about it in a slightly different way. Then we'll look at the candidate themselves. What is it that they want to get out of the onboarding experience? And then finally, we'll look at the technology that's available and how that's evolved over time. So the balance of power. So this is really interesting. So like I say, everyone talks about candidate experience. Everybody wants a great candidate experience. But what I certainly see, and certainly back from my applicant tracking system days, is people talk about it, but still lots of elements of the candidate experience aren't that great, to be honest. But if you're thinking about, where do I need to focus my budget? Where do I need to focus my resources? Where is candidate experience most important? One way to think about it is the candidate journey. So before, on the left-hand side, you've got a person who's potentially interested in working for you, but they haven't yet made an application. At that stage, the power is with them. So basically, you're trying to persuade them to take an interest in you. So they're the ones who have all the power, if you like. Then they make their application. And now, all of a sudden, it's switching back the other way because you know they're interested in you. And basically, you're then walking them through a process which is basically deciding whether you're interested in them. And with the best of them in the world, they have to follow your path. So they have to go through your process. You drive the whole experience, right up until the point where you make them an offer. And then suddenly it switches back again because they know you're interested in them. You're interested in them. You definitely want them to start with you. And actually it goes further back because a person who's had an offer from a great organisation is incredibly valuable to the rest of the marketplace. So all of your competitors suddenly, that person must be good because Company X has made an offer to them. So the way to think about it from the point of view of candidate experience is, where do you get most of your bang for your buck is all the times where the candidate has the power. So either it's before they've applied to you or it's after they've accepted your offer. So if you do have limitations, if you do want to know where to focus on, my advice is either pre-application or post-offer is where to focus your efforts. The three principles, so I've already talked about, we call them the 3 R's, which is respect for the candidate, building relationships, responding to their needs. In the onboarding space, so the first one, which is all about building it around the user, giving the user a fantastic experience, you want to make this person feel special. So you want to straight away demonstrate to them that you think they're great and you want them to come and join you. So build them a space which makes them feel already part of the team and already a valued part of that organisation. The middle part is all about treating them like adults, not forcing them down through another process, but basically giving them the information they need, but allowing them to interact with them and them to use it at the pace that's decided by them, because it's their time still. They haven't started with you yet. So you need to be respectful of their time, but give them the ability to do what it is that they need to do. But at the same time, what you can do is nudge them. So behavioral economics, rather than forcing somebody down a path, you're trying to persuade them to do the right thing, and you're reminding them every now and again that before they start, it would be great if they could watch this video or read this document or what have you. And then the last bit is the adaptive nature of our platform, which basically means you can engage with somebody, you can see how they're responding to that engagement, and then refine the experience for them. At its simplest level, that's basically if somebody's already watched a video or already signed a document or whatever, you don't need to keep on telling them to do it, because you know they've already done it. Slightly more interesting, and this is where it becomes from my technical perspective, really interesting, is you can tell how engaged somebody is with your organisation. And classically, if you've got somebody who's all excited about joining, and you can tell that from the way in which they're interacting, and then they start stepping away from the process, that's your warning flag that this is maybe somebody who you're on the verge of losing. And you can either go back, re-engage with them and try and persuade them to still join you, or at the very least you've got early warning, so you know this person isn't going to start, so you can restart the hiring process again. So using the interaction and the data that you've got to tailor the experience for the person and respond if they are disengaging from you, that's really, really powerful. This is looking at it from the organisation's perspective, so there's a couple of questions here. One is, when does onboarding start and when does it end? And the second part is, what is the organisation trying to get out of it? Now, the when question is exactly the same as the who should own onboarding question. Everybody's got a different idea. There's no right answer. You just have to decide what's right for your organisation. Classically, it starts at the point where somebody comes out of the selection funnel and accepts an offer, and then ends at some point after they've joined the organisation. But you talk to lots of organisations who are really focused on candidate experience, and they want to extend the onboarding experience even earlier into the process, so that the candidate's got a seamless experience all the way through. And then afterwards, we've got people talking about extending onboarding in a year after somebody's started. There's no right answer. It's what you think will work best for the organisation, but it's something you need to think about when you're designing your program. And then from the point of view of what people want to get out of, or what organisations want to get out of onboarding, so at its really basic level, you will have legal obligations, which could be as simple as, does this person have a contract with you? But if you're doing background checking, or if you've got you're in a regulated industry, so you need to do regulatory checks. There's some stuff that just absolutely needs to happen. So you need to do it, but I'd argue that you need to do it at the same time as layering on, making that person feel welcome, and especially in the organisation. Because apart from anything else, regulatory checks tend to take a very long time. So having something to do, whilst that's going on is very important. In the middle is the admin side. So most organisations will have needs to gather data about a person so that they can set them up on payroll or what have you. Plus, they also ideally want to get some sort of content to the person before they start. And when you're thinking about scaling this, this is the sort of the admin side. This is the bit where you can use technology to automate things, make things easier for you as an organisation. But the interesting stuff, and I would say this because this is where we love to focus, is on the engagement side, and that's again making somebody feel part of the team, helping them to start to build their relationships. And your drivers as an organisation are, you want that person to on day one be ready to go as much as possible. You want somebody to hit the ground running and be ready to perform as soon as they start with you. And then the second point is, if somebody's accepting an offer from you, the worst thing in the world is that they don't turn up on day one. So anything you can do to build that sense of engagement and being part of the organisation will help to reduce the number of people who then renege on their offers later on. And then there's this big question about who should own it. And like I say, I sit in the room with passionate people saying, no, it's got to be the recruiter. No, it needs to be the line manager. The line manager absolutely needs to own it. No, we should have learning and development involved really, really early on. Or you should set up your own dedicated team. And again, my answer is there isn't a right or wrong answer on this. Different ways will work with different organisations. You know your organisation's culture, so you know what will work best. But one thing I would say is don't think of it as somebody has to own it and it's a dead cut off where one moment somebody's in the recruitment process and next moment they're in onboarding. And this model didn't come from me, it was from another event. It was a brilliant idea, which is think of it like a relay race, and think of it, in a relay race, the bit where you have to hand over the baton, there's lines marking the space. It's called the exchange zone in a relay race. So that's your onboarding. Your onboarding is where somebody's changing from being a candidate to becoming an employee, but it's not a cut-off, it's a space where this is going on, and it's a team effort in the sense of when you drop the baton, it's never down to one person. It's a whole, there's one person who's got to hand it on, there's somebody else who has to pick it up. So it's generally, onboarding will be a team effort. So what you need to do is you need to build your process and build your how you're doing it around this sense of a team. And one of the things that we're quite good at is rather than having lots and lots of one-way conversations, so between each individual, make it more collective, make it more about discussions, so that people can see what's going on and they can share information more easily, and it makes people feel more comfortable with the process as well, because your candidates may feel really nervous about asking questions because they don't want to feel stupid. But if they can see that everybody's asking questions and that actually maybe somebody's already asked a question that they're interested in, that's much more welcoming for them. And then from the point of view of, especially your line managers, often one of the reasons why they don't engage is they're a bit nervous about it as well. They're worried about saying the wrong thing. So again, if it's all out in the open, then they can see the sort of interaction that's going on. It will make them feel more comfortable in the process as well. So it's a team effort rather than needs to be specifically built around one person. Now, if we look at it from the point of view of the candidate, so the candidate, and this is, everybody knows about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so we built our own onboarding hierarchy of needs. And the idea behind this is that you need to get the basic stuff right, because if you don't get the basic stuff right, there's no point in doing anything else. But if you can get the basic stuff right, then you can layer onto that some really interesting things. So our pyramid is basically, your starting point is that Am I actually going to start? Do I have a contract? Those really basic things, and then you layer on top of that. Will I have a laptop when I start? Will I be able to log into my email? All of those basic things that somebody needs to get their job done. But now you can start to layer on top of that. What do I need to know in order to be able to be effective in this organisation? So there's a knowledge layer of information that person needs to know. And then on top of that, feeling supported. So can I ask questions? Is there somebody that can help me with, the room I'm supposed to be in on my first day, or what tube line I should take to get to the office? So those sorts of support and questioning. And then on top of that, which is the real pinnacle, is this sense of belonging to the organisation. And what's key around that is that's where the people get involved. So that's where you want your person who's about to start to be able to start building those relationships with the people they're going to be working with, whether that be the people who are joining at the same time with them or the people that are going to in the team that they're going to be working with. The more you can work on that, the more you can make somebody feel that they belong. First of all, it makes them better, more effective, because they've got those relationships that they're going to use from day one. But secondly, they're feeling part of the family, so they're less likely to leave. So our experience here is working with clients is the more you can build that engagement, the more you can move up that pyramid, as well as making everybody really happy and very excited about joining, that has direct business benefits into reducing the attrition from offer offer to start. And then the final part is how technology's evolved and how technology is able to support all of these things. So I already mentioned I've got a big background in applicant tracking systems, and probably about 10 years ago, maybe more, maybe 15 years ago, crikey, I'm getting old, we started to do things like offer tracking and offer management, and maybe starting to get some contract signing and what have you in there. So we started to handle the legal side of onboarding. Then probably about 10 years ago, some specialist tools started to appear, because organisations realised that they need to go beyond that, and they needed to collect more information, send out information, and if they could automate that would be great, because it would save them some money. So lots of systems which are all about transactions, so basically either sending information out or getting information back. And then where we are now, and which is why I'm really so excited about this particular area of HR, is now you're getting people networks involved, and systems which are built around people, so that you can layer onto all of those practical and technical and transactional elements this sense of support and belonging, which is so important for your onboarders. And it's quite a generational thing as well. I think the younger generations who are coming through are much more driven by wanting to have genuine relationships with people and genuine relationships with the organisations. And so if you can put the technology in place that allows you to support that level of engagement, that's what we would consider to be a world-class onboarding program.